Shalom. Shalom, brothers and sisters. How's everybody doing? We hoping, we praying that everybody is well and will be better. This is your brother and friend, Yeshaya Yisrael, of the house of Don of the nation of Israel. If I can be heard well and people are in good spirits, we ask you to press the number 4. If I can be heard well and people are in good spirits, we ask you to please press the number 4. Shalom, my brother, Chief Shama, son of Chief Eleazar. Shalom, sister Kanaya Yisrael. Brothers and sisters, again, if I can be heard well and people are in good spirits, we ask you to please press the number 4. We are on the platforms Mora Yeshaya, Torah Lessons, Mora Yeshaya, Hebrew Lessons. And what we care to talk about, brothers and sisters, in this is the matter, if we will. Getting into the matter, brothers and sisters, of the language. And what can we ascertain in such? So, without any further ado, brothers and sisters, we care to sit there, if we will, and do the not this one, sorry, the share screen. And we're going to, brothers and sisters, pull up the PowerPoint, if we will, in reference with this. This is not a very long presentation, brothers and sisters, but it's something that we care to sit there and talk about and have reasoning to come from such and with such. All right? So, Toda Rabah, my sister, Kanaya, for typing that in, because even say if I can hear me, I want to sit there and make sure that I can be heard well, brothers and sisters, by the family, if we will, in that particular case. All right? So let us continue in this particular aspect, if we will. If we pull up the PowerPoint, what do we see? In that case, this is covering that, so I am going to remove that in that particular case. All right. And thank you for that, family. Let us pull this up. And what we want to talk about, brothers and sisters, is whether or not Hebrew has vowels. Does Hebrew have vowels? Some people say yes. Some people say no. Before we get into this, let us, brothers and sisters, look up what is a vowel. And it says here, a vowel is a letter that represents a speech sound produced without any significant blockage of airflow in the vocal tract. So now, the thing in which you use from your neck to speak with are those aspects of the sounds that makes. We want to point out, brothers and sisters, that regarding what a vowel is, it says, brothers and sisters, a sound produced without any significant blockage of airflow in the vocal tract. In the English alphabet, the vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. Vowels form the nucleus of syllables and are essential for the structure of words. So now, brothers and sisters, if vowels, brothers and sisters, are essential for the structure of words, there are certain things that we care to bring out for reference purposes. When we're speaking about Hebrew, we're mainly talking about the Hebrew that we see within the scriptures, within, say, the said Old Testament. Brothers and sisters, from when we read Bereshit bara Elohim, in the beginning God created, all the way down to the end of the said Old Testament, be it in many cases in the Tanakh, ending off in the book of Chronicles with the rise of the Persian Empire. Now, how does that statement become significant? We want to point out, brothers and sisters, that during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, during the time, say, when Persia had ruled, the Israelites in the time of Nehemiah had to be retaught Hebrew when you go to Nehemiah chapter 10 and on. They had children from wives that were Philistine women. So some of the children spoke different languages according to the parent of said child. But the Israelites understood the language that, for the lack of a better term, the mixed children in the time of Nehemiah and Ezra was speaking. There is something else, brothers and sisters, to point out, if we will, in this. And we'd like to go to, brothers and sisters, in this, in Genesis, right? 41, Hebrew Makon, and let's see what it says here concerning this. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. Now, let's remember that, brothers and sisters, in that particular case. It goes on to say, right? Let's scroll down. Thank you. "41. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his signet ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck." Now, brothers and sisters, when I was in Egypt, linen, brothers and sisters, is one of the main materials that is there. I remember that, right? Now, let's go on and see what it says here. "And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, Abrek," which means about bowing down. "And he set him over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or his foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphanat Paneah, and he gave him to wife Asenat, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt." Let's continue. "And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the year of famine came, whom Asenat, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bore unto him." And it goes here to say, "And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God hath made me forget all of my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, for God hath made me fruitful in the land of my affliction." Let's continue on. We see that they were born unto Joseph. He became a viceroy. He had some kind of prestige and clout as a governor, if you will, right? And let's continue and see what happens, brothers and sisters. We see here in chapter 42 that Joseph, brothers and sisters, was after being made a viceroy, visited by his brothers. And it says here in verse 8 in Genesis 42, "And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew him not. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said unto him, Nay, my lord, but to buy food, are thy servants come. We are all one man's sons. We are upright men. My servants are not spies." See, this is what happens when you forget what you may have done. You see how they just were saying, "We are upright men"? No, you're not, brothers and sisters. But let's see what it goes on to say. And he said unto them, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, We, thy servants, are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. So here you are, not realizing that you're telling on yourself. They're talking to the person whom they're saying is not. Let's see. And Joseph said unto them, This is that I spoke unto you, saying, Ye are spies. Hereby ye shall be proved, as Pharaoh lives. You shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother, and you shall be bound by your words may be proved, whether there be truth in you, or else, as Pharaoh liveth, surely ye are spies. And he put them together into ward 3 days, which means incarceration in that aspect. And Joseph said unto them the third day, This do and live, for I fear Elohim. If ye be upright men, let one of your brethren be bound in your prison house, but go ye, carry corn and famine for your houses. Then it goes on to say in verse 22, and Reuben answered them, saying, no, let's start in verse 21. And they said one to another, We are verily guilty concerning our brother, and that we saw the distress of his soul when he besought us, and we were not here. Therefore is this distress come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, Spoke I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the child, and you were not here? Therefore also, behold, his blood is required. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for the interpreter was between them. Let's point this out, brothers and sisters. Right? Now, they did not know who they was talking to. These men are the children of Israel. And they themselves have children. That's why you find Joseph saying, take food and bring it into the aspect for your households. And he's asking of their younger brother to be brought. All right? Let's look, brothers and sisters, at that. Sorry about that. If there was an interpreter between the children of Israel and the viceroy in the land of Egypt, as we see here, brothers and sisters, in verse 23, the word melitz means interpreter, right? How then, family, the language that the Israelites spoke had to have been known by more than just the Israelites. If the children of Israel, Reuben and his brothers, are speaking a certain language, and Joseph understood them, and in Joseph understanding them, there was also an interpreter. This would mean that the language that the children of Israel spoke was more known than just by the children of Israel, because this interpreter, by default, is not an Israelite. Abraham, the ancestor of the Israelites, came from the place of Ur of Chaldees and went to the land of Canaan and had a son who had a son. So Abraham had Isaac, and then Isaac had Jacob. So now if the Israelites in the timing of them being in Exodus, pardon me, in the timing of Genesis chapter 42, are speaking Hebrew, and Moses, sorry, not Moses, Joseph, I totally stand corrected, and Joseph is speaking Egyptian. Joseph had to have been knowledgeable of more than one language. Now, how does this tie into the matter? The confounding of the languages happened before the birth of Abraham at the Tower of Babel, when the people were confounded and they could not understand one another's speech. And therefore, if they did not understand each other's speech in the timing before Abraham, what language would Abraham been speaking coming out of Ur or Chaldees? If it says that Laban, the paternal grandfather of the Israelites, pardon me, the maternal, my bad, the maternal grandfather of the Israelites, because he's the father of Leah and Rachel, brothers and sisters, and he was of the Aramean people, what can we say about the language that the Israelites eventually spoke? All right, the brother asked a question. Mora Yeshaya, is it true that the Egyptian had their dead in coffins? Do they still have it? Yes, they still got their dead in the coffins inside of, say, their museum. So now, if the children of Israel, in the book of Genesis 42, is speaking Hebrew, and Joseph, whom they did not know was a Hebrew, understood them centuries after the confounding of languages, when the earth was of not one speech, as we read in Genesis chapter 11. There are centuries between Genesis 11 and Genesis 42. So here is the question to ask regarding Hebrew and vowels. And we've already discussed, brothers and sisters, what a vowel is. A letter that represents a speech sound. What is a sound? When I'm speaking on this microphone, there's sound coming from it. So the only thing is that a vowel is a letter or a symbol, a phonetic matter, something that is written down with a pencil or a pen or a marker on a sheet of paper or etched in with a stone to a stone that represents a particular thing. So now let's look, brothers and sisters, to see what a vowel is. Again, a vowel is a letter that represents a speech sound produced without any significant blockage of airflow in the vocal tract. Goes on to say, vowels form the nucleus of syllables and are essential for the structure of words. Why does that become important, brothers and sisters? Because if we just read that the children of Israel, Reuben and his brothers, are speaking a language that an interpreter knows, that would mean whatever language the Israelites from Reuben to Zebulun was speaking one to another was known by more than just the Israelites. As far as they're concerned, Zaphanat Paneah, whom they do not know as Joseph, does not understand what they're saying. Perhaps the interpreter was not saying everything like, did I not tell you not to touch the child? They may think that, oh, maybe the interpreter may say it later or so forth and so on. But that becomes very significant, what we're reading in Genesis 42 regarding the matter of linguistics and language. Let us get into this, brothers and sisters. Okay, it is asked, when were the vowels to the Hebrew language added? Okay, we're going to talk about that in that case. A vowel is something that is written in. So there is no set way to say, oh, well, it had to been written this way or that way. Most of us are learning Hebrew not from birth. Most of us are already speaking English and learning Hebrew over the age of 10. So most of us learning, in many cases after, say, the age of 10, we're learning it by reading it as opposed to speaking and then being taught to read. Like many of us speaking English. We were speaking English at 3, 4 years old, one to another, and not even knowing how to read. Once it came down to Hebrew, if you were born speaking Hebrew, then you would not sit there and need to know how to read it to a certain age. Same thing with, say, any other kind of language. So now, if Yisrael is saying Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel, the sh, in that are vowels. Those are sounds. The Yisrael, the E-A in Yisrael, those sounds are the vowels, whether they were written in or not. And we want to point something out linguistically with the scriptures, brothers and sisters. Let us go, if we will, here, right? If we will. Genesis chapter 2, Hebrew Makon, right? And what does it say? Trying to get to a certain verse, family. In Genesis chapter 2:23, and the man said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. Now, here is what it says in Hebrew. Wayomer ha'adam zot ha'pa'am etzem ba'azamai ubasar mibsari lezot yekwa re isha ki meish lukka zot. Let's look at this word right here, brothers and sisters, right? And if we pull up the PowerPoint, thank you for that, family, right? We'll use this one right here. We see Isha, woman, wife. Now let's remember that, right, family? Now let's go back in the scriptures to let the book be the standard, right, if we will. And let's go, brothers and sisters, into Leviticus chapter 2, right? I believe it's in chapter 2, Hebrew Malcolm. All right, let's look, family, in this particular case. Let's see chapter 3, if we will. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Let's look at this, brothers and sisters, for reference purposes. All right, we're going to take a baby step, if we will. Burnt offering in Leviticus, right? Leviticus chapter 1. I had the wrong chapter. Sorry about that. Leviticus 1 through 17. Right? Let's see what that says, family. Thank you for that. Let's see what this says. Nah, sorry. Let's do it this way. Doom, doom, doom. And this is something I wanted to point out, if we will, family. Right? Okay, this is not working the way I hoped it did. So let's just go back here if we do it this way. Right? Fire offering in Leviticus. Okay? And let's see in that manner. Is where to get the exact citation, if we will. Right? Offerings made by fire. No, not a burnt offering, but rather a fire offering. All right? Let's see, if we will. Leviticus chapter 3. Let's see what it says, family. That one didn't even work. Let's look. Thank you for that. Leviticus chapter 3. And let's see what it says. All right. In 3:14. I'm sure people like get it together. I apologize for the timing, family. It says here, and he shall present thereof his offering, even an offering made by fire unto Yah, the fat that covereth the inwards and all the fat that is upon the inwards. The Hebrew says, Wehikrib memenu quadabano ishe la yod he wahe et hacheleb ham kase et ha quereb we et kal ha heleb ashel al ha quereb. Now let's look at this right here. This word we care to talk about, right? And if we go back, brothers and sisters, to the PowerPoint, right? This is something we want to point out. Right here we see, if we will, Ishe, fire offering. And it took long enough to get to it. I totally apologize for that. Right? So let's look at what we're looking at right here, brothers and sisters. Right? Thank you for that. Now, this right here is something we care to sit there and bring out for reference purposes. And what are we looking at? We see here in Genesis that Isha, Aleph Sheen Hey, is wife or woman. And in Leviticus 3, Ishe is fire offering. Why does that become important? Because, brothers and sisters, right? If we were to sit there and take that for reference purposes, and we're saying Hebrew has no vowels, How do you know the difference between a woman and a fire offering? As we see right there, one being, brothers and sisters, Genesis 2, the other being Leviticus 3. That's the question I have in that particular case. So we can close this part. Thank you. This part. Let me see if there's any comments. Again, I do apologize with the timing in that particular case, right? Let's look, family. Thank you for that, my brother. I didn't even see you type that in. So let's look. So everybody who's here, Beit Zadok, thank you for joining. Chief Shama, son of Chief Eleazar, Bergen Paris, Kanaya Yisrael, Numeraltics, thank you for joining on. So let's look at this, brothers and sisters. And again, I do apologize for the timing, right? I should have had that at least written down on my notes to do it quicker. I apologize, family. But let's look at this here. We see the same letters here, Aleph, right? We could put that if we want in that case. Yellow, right? And then we could put this here. We're going to color code it the same way with that. Then we got sheen right here, brothers and sisters, if we will. If we were to sit there and do it in that particular case, let's look. All right. Okay, it doesn't want to do it in that manner. We could put the sheen in the blue. I don't know why it's not doing that. This is why, brothers and sisters, let's look. We're just going to bold it. All right. Bold it and enlarge. Okay. I don't know because it's a different language. It's giving me a difficult, but we see what it is, right? Any questions? The aleph, the sheen, and the hay. The aleph, the sheen, and the hay. If Hebrew was just ah, ba, ga, da, ha, ma, and so forth and so on, right? How will we know the difference between, as asked, between a woman and a fire offering? See, when you find brothers and sisters on Facebook or any other place talking about, well, those guys are speaking Yiddish. No, we are not speaking Yiddish. Modern Hebrew is not Yiddish. We want to point that out. And we've gone over and will again, brothers and sisters, look at this. A vowel is a letter that represents a speech sound produced. That means it's something that's done verbally, a sound, verbal, meaning of the mouth, through the throat, produced without any significant blockage. But now, even brothers and sisters, if you were to say Hebrew is just ah, ba, ga, da, ha, za, katalamana, and so on, those ah sounds are still vowels. So you cannot have a language without any vowels. You cannot speak without vowels. Once we understand what a vowel is, whether it's written in or not, you have certain languages to this day in 2025 that have no written form of it. But when they speak, they know what they're speaking. So for those who joined on, thank you for that. We want to do a recap and what we're talking about, right? We see Isha is woman or wife, and Ishe is fire offering. Spelled the exact same way with the exact same Hebrew letters, right? If brothers and sisters, right, now it worked. So we're going to keep the hay by itself, the sheen and the sheen, and the aleph and the aleph. The Isha, the A in Isha is a vowel. The Ishe in the E in that is a vowel. So you cannot have a language again with no vowels. Because you're not operating Once we understand what a vowel is, vowels form the nucleus, meaning the center of a matter, the importance of a matter, of syllables. Syllables in Hebrew are aleph, bet, gamel, dalet. Vowels form the nucleus of syllables and are essential for the structure of words. Hebrew has masculine and feminine. If Hebrew had no vowels, how do you formulate the masculine and feminine? You can't. There's a masculine way to dress and a feminine way to dress in Israel. So therefore, the culture shows you that everything is not just 100% the same all the way around the board. So these are things that we care to bring out for reference purposes. The language and the thought of a people, brothers and sisters, shows you, in truth, the mind of a people. So let's look. If we were to, with the timing allotted, right, go back to Genesis for those who just joined on, and we want to make some more points about this. Genesis chapter 42, right? Hebrew, Machon, and what do we see here in, brothers and sisters, verse 21? And they said one to another, what language were they speaking? Hebrew. Let's move on. We are very guilty concerning our brother, and that we saw the distress of his soul when he besought us, and we were not here. Therefore, is this distress come upon us? They were not speaking English. All right, let's continue. And Reuben answered them, saying, spoke I not unto you, saying, do not sin against the child, and you were not here. Therefore, also, behold, his blood is required. They knew righteousness from wickedness. They didn't sit there and do what some people try to do, say, well, the thing that happened with Joseph was paid back to Jacob. No. They knew they was guilty of it, and sadly, sidebar, they never forgave themselves. But let's move on and let's point something out, brothers and sisters. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for the interpreter was between them. If there's an interpreter between the children of Israel from Reuben to Zebulun, Joseph's 10 older brothers, and Joseph understood what they were saying, Joseph had to be multilingual. He had to know more than one language. You're not becoming a viceroy in a center like Egypt where many nations flock to, and you're not going to be able to communicate with them. That's not happening. People laughed at me and scoffed, if I may say. When I put on Facebook, and I'm open to constructive criticism, when I put on Facebook that Solomon had to know Spanish, people thought that was the funniest thing on earth. And one brother said, brother, I get what you're coming from, but by the time in ancient Spain, they will be speaking Castilian, a form of Latin. So not say the Spanish we see today. But here's the point. If you go in the book of Kings, brothers and sisters, in our scriptures, and it said that Solomon did business with the people of Tarshish, which is Spain, having the ports going from Ezion-Geber after the children of Edom did not have it after a while studying the history, and going all the way around southern Africa and then going all the way up because Solomon had migration patterns going in that particular case. The men of Solomon that did business with the Europeans had to know the language of the Europeans, because you can't do business not understanding each other. That's why in the scriptures, when we talk about the Tower of Babel and the language was confounded with the people, they not understanding each other's speech. They had to stop doing business, in that case, with the Tower of Babel. So in order for Solomon, centuries later, to do business with the people of Spain, he had to know the language that the people of Spain spoke. And that's in our scriptures. Tarshish of Spain, when you go in the book of Josephus about the children of Japhet. Joseph and Moses spoke Metuneter, or ancient Egyptian. They read it. It says in the book of Exodus 11 that Moses was a great man in Egypt. He's not getting great not knowing how to speak Egyptian. Now bring it back now to us as the house of Israel. In the book of Kings, did not they say, speak to us in the language of the Yahudim, of the Jews of the tribe of Judah, and not in the language of the people of Ashur? So Israel was around people. That's in 2 Kings chapter 18. So Israel was around people who spoke different languages, which means getting now into the book of Ezra and Nehemiah. After the captivity in Babylon, when the children who were taken grew up and had children in Babylon, their children did not speak Ibrit or Hebrew in that case. So Ezra and Nehemiah, when you go into the book of Ezra, chapter 10, and into Nehemiah chapter 10 through 13, they had to reteach the Hebrew language of Judah to the people of Israel. If the Israelites only spoke ba, ga, da, ha, mata, za, how did they forget that? One of the things that what they call Lashon Kwadash, and that is to say when they say Hebrew doesn't have any vowels outside of and I. So therefore it's ba, ga, da, ha, mata, za, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, so forth and so on. If you're saying instead of Shalom, Shalom. If you're saying instead of Yisrael, Yashra'Allah. If you're saying instead of Aki, Akaya, how, if everything is an A sound and an I sound, how did the Israelites forget that? One of the arguments, not to be disrespectful, that the brothers who speak what they call Lashon Kwadash, right? One of the things that they say is it's the language that babies speak, so it's natural to us. So if that is the case, like a baby saying ba, da, and that's to say your said original language, then again, how did the children of Israel forget it in a time when they was in Babylon and Ezra and Nehemiah had to teach them that again? We have to sit back and think. What is a vowel? We have to sit back and think. Ancient Israelites, not all of them knew how to read. Not to be disrespectful. The men who did SA while we on YouTube, who did an assault SA to the woman in the book of Judges and her husband, cut her up in different parts, and that called the civil war in the book of Judges. Do you think those guys knew how to read? Do you think they went to school? Of course not. Look at their deeds. You understand? So these are things, brothers and sisters, that we care to bring out for reference purposes. Again, family, I want to apologize taking too much time trying to get the verse over in Leviticus. That's normally not my style. I'm only human. I stand corrected. I should have had that at least written down. I bear with you all. You all bear with me as we go through this slide by slide and video by video. So I want to respect you all, as I wouldn't never fix my mouth to say students, but the audience. So I should have had that written down on my sheet of paper, and I stand corrected for that, for taking up the people's time. I apologize. Please forgive me for that earlier. Brothers and sisters, when we go back into this as we close out, right? Whether a vowel is written in, whether a language actually has a written form of it, doesn't mean that it is not spoken. There are languages to this day, 2025, that have no written form of it. There are people speaking English who cannot read a word. They're illiterate. They cannot read nor write, but they understand what they're talking about. They understand the things that's being said to them. But many of us in Israel, learning Hebrew after the age of 10, we think, and I learned it greatly after the age of 10. I'm not trying to take shots at anybody. We think that by seeing it as we see on the screen there, that is how ancient Israel had it. Not so, brothers and sisters. They learned it from birth. Before they was able to walk, they was hearing Hebrew around them. Solomon's Hebrew in the book of Proverbs, they stated was one of the hardest things to translate. The book of Proverbs is hard to translate. Well, Solomon was the son of David, surrounded around people like Zadok, a Levite priest of the house of Aaron, surrounded around people like the family of Shemuel, who had rank, like the family of Saul, who still had respect and ties with the house of David. Do you get where I'm coming from? So Solomon being around the family of the prophet Samuel, the priest Zadok, the family of Saul, he's going to get the best education around. So that is why Hebrew in Proverbs might be a higher vocabulary than the Hebrew you might see in the book of Judges. The common folk. No offense intended to anybody. You understand? So what are we saying, brothers and sisters? We are saying this. Taking this citation here as we close out. A vowel is a letter that represents a speech sound produced without any significant blockage of airflow in the vocal tract. In the English alphabet, the vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. Main point two we care to emphasize. Vowels form the nucleus of syllables and are essential for the structure of words. Brothers and sisters, I would like to take out the time and do this here. Do it in Hebrew. Let's see this here. We have the aleph and the ket. This means brother. Ak. Ak means brother. Now, in Yiddish, let's see this, brothers and sisters, how to say brother in Yiddish. Let's see what it says. The Yiddish word for brother is broder. Brooder. So when we say ak and aki, that we're speaking Yiddish, no, we're not. Because we just pointed out, and everybody in Israel certainly may know, that the Hebrew word for brother is ak. Written with the same syllables adopted by Yiddish. Just because it's written in the same phonetic style doesn't make it the same. You can have AMA, Ama. Ama in Hebrew means a maidservant. It could be written in English letters. It does not make it an English word. All right, let's pull up the PowerPoint so we can see what we're talking about. Take this here, if we will, right? AMA, maidservant in Hebrew. But AMA, though written in English letters, does not, brothers and sisters, make it an English word. So now when we go back, taking that here for reference purposes, if we will, family, right? And let's look. This, looking at this here, is the Yiddish word for brother, as we just went over, brooder. And then, brothers and sisters, we have, as pointed out, thank you for the time, family, we have here the Hebrew word for brother, which is, brothers and sisters, this here, ak. Ak means brother. And brooder in Yiddish is brother. So what can we say in that? When we say ak and aki, you don't find Israelites, not trying to be funny, Old Testament based, that mostly speak what they call Ban in Hebrew, saying brooder for brother. We don't say that. We don't say mut or for mother. We say aim or ima. So when we say ak or akim, and people come on Facebook where I don't know where the fact checkers existed, I don't know where they went, because we've been told several times, y'all speaking Yiddish. No, we're not. And that is the spirit where this video is going to, brothers and sisters. Now, let's point this out. Ama means maidservant. You see that in Exodus 20. Let's see what this one says about Aleph, Mem, might say Ima for mother, but let's see. Aqueduct. But if you scroll down here, Ama, right? If you see it highlighted there, you do see maidservant. Shown right there. Ama, Aleph, Mem, Hey. Also means forearm too. But brothers and sisters, if we can point out, right, that Ama is maidservant or female servant, shown right here. We want to show this, right? Do y'all see that? Can y'all type that in? If you see that, type in the number 2, where it says that Ama in Hebrew means female servant or maid servant right there. Right? Thank you. Let's pull this up. I wanted to go over this for a particular reason, brothers and sisters. Let's look. All right. Thank you for that. Ama, maidservant. Now, when we go and see AMA, right here, maidservant, is written in English letters. It doesn't make Ama an English word. The point in going over that again and again is because when you look at this here, brooder is written in Hebrew phonetics, but it's not a Hebrew word. Nebuchadnezzar is written in the book of Jeremiah, but it's not a Hebrew word. Zephaniah Paneah, we pointed out in the brother's book, Egypt Talking Writing, is the Hebraic way of saying the Egyptian Jitenef Yaku. Get the book for the translation. All right. Now, let's look at this right here. Brooder is brother in Yiddish, and Ak is brother in Hebrew. So we need, brothers and sisters, people to stop saying, share the video, stop saying that when we speak, even quote unquote modern Hebrew, and we're going to explain what modern Hebrew is in a second, that it is still, quote, not Yiddish. Now, what is modern Hebrew? Modern Hebrew is when you take ancient Hebrew rules and apply it to modern times. Case in point. Quar is the word for cold. C-O-L-D. Quarar, by doubling that R sound, you emphasize whatever that verb is. Cold, freeze. To make cold. By putting the letter mem in front of it, you'd make that verb a noun. Mekwarer means refrigerator. So there was no refrigerator, say, in the time of Moses and Aaron, in the time of the prophets, Isaiah through Jeremiah. There was no refrigerator, say, then. So now what is modern Hebrew is still, brothers and sisters, not Yiddish. So we're not speaking Yiddish. These things come from, and I say in no disrespect, from people who, like they try to say, not to sound disrespectful, are unlearned. Once you begin to study about a particular matter and giving honor to the Most High and letting the Most High direct your paths, you'll begin to perhaps then see that male and female are not the same in Hebraic thought. And since male and female are not the same in Hebraic thought, they cannot talk the same. Let us point this out, family, and as we get into this. Let's look, family. Right? We have here, you wrote. Past tense of writing, second person singular. Right? Now you put the vowels. I don't know if y'all can hear it on the thing. Right? This right here, brothers and sisters, let's look. Copy. We're going to pull the PowerPoint back up, right? And what do we see here? Katapta. This means you wrote FEM, feminine, right? Now, let's take that same aspect, brothers and sisters, and let's look at this here. Kaf, Tau, Bet, Tau. Now, Katapt, you wrote, as you see there. Now, when we go in the past tense, showing it right here, male, female, right? What do we see here, brothers and sisters? And we want to emphasize this as we close out. Thank you for the time. Right? Ka, tab, ta. You wrote MAS, masculine. Do we see, brothers and sisters, that the ending here, bold, the ending here, brothers and sisters, expanded. No, we're going to expand this one. Right? Let's look. We expand that to that. And then if we expand this, brothers and sisters, just to show it, in the green, katapta, you wrote. Katapt, you wrote feminine. If there are no vowels, how do you have the difference between masculine and feminine? If there are no vowels, how do we know the difference, brothers and sisters, with the spelling? Because it's spelled the same, kav tau, bet tau, kav tau, bet tau. So if we have no vowels, see, the people who write in books, I actually have a book that says vowels are added on later. They didn't speak Hebrew. They just wrote history. So now when you get into this kind of matter, Ama, Ishe, fire offering, Isha, woman, how do you know the difference between an Isha and, brothers and sisters, an Ishe if there are no vowels? And we've gone over, brothers and sisters, let's read it again. A vowel is a letter that represents a speech sound produced without any significant blockage or airflow in the vocal tract. Vowels form, meaning that they form, they create, they cause to be the nucleus of syllables and are essential for the structure of words. So if it is essential, if a vowel is essential for the structure of words, that's how we know the difference between you wrote masculine and you wrote feminine, knowing that there's male way and female way in Israel, and it is not unisex culture. These are things that we care to bring out. Are there any questions? Let's look into the chat and see. For that family, thank you. Shalom, Mariska Parker. Shalom, learned a lot too. It's a German derivative. I guess you're talking about the matter of Yiddish. In that case, let me know. Hosea, Amos, and parts of Judges have variations in Hebrew. Well, yeah, because you can have one word meaning the same thing. Like Sha'ashua means happy or joyful in Proverbs 8. But he shall cause her to be happy in Deuteronomy 24 is the word samak. All right. Job is difficult to decipher as well as songs of songs. Okay. Here we see Atato More. I'm well. How are you, Beit Zadok? Thank you for asking. Mariska Parker is given a shout out. We have here the men of Benjamin. We're going to move on past that. I think where that came from the people that did what they did. I don't think those guys were reading, sitting inside of a Hebrew university, what they was into. We look at here, Shalom family, Shalom back to you, sister. They call it the baby language, Ga, and the children of Israel supposed to be growing and multiplying. So we can't talk like babies. All right. This sayer says, even Assyria had two scribes recording in two different languages, the Amarna. Let us also collaborate your point. Thank you for that, family, especially in Senegambia. All right. Thank you for that. That's similar to how a lot of African languages have multiple different languages, and a lot of people in these nations know 5 or 6 different languages of neighboring tribes. Cain, exactly. Like Yisrael definitely knew Egyptian. Yisrael definitely knew Arabic. Let's continue. Yes, if you like the video, thumb up, family. Thank you for that. The reason why languages were stirred, greatly so. Just reading the comments in that case. Goes on to say the vowels in your name tells your inner desires. Okay. We have here is all well, okay, talking among each other. I appreciate that because it makes me as a presenter feel welcomed when people talk in there, be at peace and be at peace just with everybody else. That's told me old. All right. So, brothers and sisters, I meant it used in older form. Understood. Now let's take, I think you mentioned the Amarna records, right? The Amarna records, speaks of David or David. I pointed that out in my book, brothers and sisters. All right, where the Amarna records speaks about David in a book that I wrote called Israelite History as it Relates to the World. You can get that book online. Israelites in Archaeology and so on. A chapter and say such. Dadua is the Akkadian word for David. Yishai, Jesse, is Yeshua inside of Akkadian. Remember the people of Akkad? Well, at one point, the Akkadian language was the lingua franca. Now, let us look that up, brothers and sisters, for reference purposes, right? Any questions, comments, please feel free to put it into the chat. What is a lingua franca? It says a lingua franca is a language used as a means of communication between people who do not share a native language. This is what happened with Akkadian at one point. This is why you find the Amarna records speaking about the kings of Israel written in Akkadian. It can be a single language or a mixture of languages that facilitates understanding among diverse linguistic groups. Historically, the term referred to a pidgin language used by traders in the Mediterranean, where the children of Israel were, but today it encompasses any language that serves as a bridge for communication. Examples of modern Francas include English, French, and Spanish. But one time Akkadian was that. So when we speak, brothers and sisters, about a lingua franca, as we see here, a language that is adopted as a common language between speakers whose native languages are different. Let's put that right here for reference purposes. All right. What is a lingua franca? Ancient Israel knew more than one language, but their indigenous language was what we call Ibrit or Hebrew. So the situation now back with Joseph in Genesis chapter 41 and Genesis chapter 42 shows us a couple of things. The children of Israel were less than 100 people, including the grandsons and granddaughters of Jacob. Who was the interpreter that understood what Joseph's brothers were saying? Joseph understood what they were saying, but who was the other guy that was the interpreter in Genesis 42? So whatever language Israel spoke, Hebrew, had to be known by more than just the children of Israel. And are we to sit there and think brothers and sisters, that it is just ah, ba, ga, when we know that even ah is a vowel? You don't have past tense, present tense, and future tense with just ah, ba, ga, and so forth and so on. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to take an intermission. Thank you for the time. All right. Thank you for that. And we'll be right back. Don't know what happened to the music, but we'll be right back. Thank you for that. All right, family. Thank you for being with us. Shalom. Shalom. Sorry about that. Brothers and sisters, let us get back into this and close out. Thank you for that, family. We went over what is a vowel. We went over what is lingua franca. We went over, brothers and sisters, scriptures. Leviticus 3, where it says fire offering. Leviticus 3 says such. All right. Genesis chapter 2, where it says woman. The Hebrew wording is exactly the same. We went over Amma, though written in English letters, does not make it an English word. All right. Now, we wanted to emphasize it's written in Hebrew letters here, brooder, but that's not a Hebrew word just because it's written in Hebrew letters. Just as much as in Jeremiah, where it says Nebuchadnezzar's name in Hebrew letters, does it make Nebuchadnezzar a Hebrew word? All right. Same premise. But the Hebrew word for brother is ak, not brooder. So you don't find brothers in Israel who quote unquote speak modern Hebrew saying brooder. We say ak. You understand? We went over in closing what lingua franca is. Now, this is from an old slide, but I wanted to use it on this. Jacob, encouraged by this dream, went on more cheerfully for Egypt with his sons. and all belonging to them. Now they were in all 70. I once indeed thought it best to not set down the names of this family, especially because of their difficult pronunciation by the Greeks, but also, but it says, but upon the whole, I think it necessary to mention those names, that I might disprove such as believe that we came not originally from Mesopotamia, but are Egyptians. What is Josephus saying there? Is that people thought in the time of Josephus, when Rome was in power with the Flavian dynasty, right? The Romans believed that the Israelites came out of the people of the Egyptians, like the Philistines did. The Philistines descended from the Egyptians. The Egyptians were Hamitic nations. So these Romans who thought that the Israelites descended from Hamitic people, what are we able to say about that? Israel was not European. Hebrew is not a European language. That's why in the book called 201 Hebrew Verbs, it says that Hebrew differs from Indo-European languages. It's because Hebrew is not part of the Indo-European languages, but rather part of the Afro-Asiatic languages. It is related to Amharic, which is spoken in Ethiopia. It is related to Aramaic. Aramaic was the language that some of the kings of the northern tribes in the Bible were named after. Baasha, though written in we say Hebrew letters in the book of Kings, is not a Hebrew word. I'm going to drop this, Israel. The Hebrew word to say hear or listen really is not Shema. That's actually an Aramaic word. That Shin Mem Ayin in the Hebrew phonetics that we see is actually Aramaic writing. This is things we care to point out. This doesn't take the credibility away from nothing. As pointed out, there are kings of Israel whose names go back to Aramaic, such as Baasha, such as Elah, kings that you see in the book of Kings in the scriptures. So let's look that, brothers and sisters, the Arameans were later on called Syria by the Greeks, same people. Let's see what it says. There were now in Palestine some 2.5 million souls, of whom 100,000 lived in Jerusalem. Most of them spoke Aramaic. Priests and scholars understood Hebrew. Officials and foreigners and most authors used Greek. This comes from a book called Caesar and Christ by Will Durant. Let's continue. And when Ptolemy had, it says, asked him how many 10,000 of books he had collected, he replied that he had already about 20 times 10,000. But that in a little time he should have 50 times 10,000. But be said, he had been informed that there were many books of laws among the Jews, meaning among those of Judah, the Israelites. Books of laws among the Israelites, you got to read it as it says there, but we know who they are, worthy of inquiry after, and worthy of the king's library. How did for the lack of a better term, the white man get a hold of the scriptures? It came by Ptolemy Philadelphus II. Let's continue. But which, being written in characters and in dialect of their own, will cause no small pains in getting them translated into the Greek tongue. Meaning the Hebrew way of speaking is difficult for the Greeks to translate. Do you know there is no Greek translation for the holy name, the Yod He Waw He? There's no Greek way to say he who was, he who causes to be, he who was, he who caused to be. They can't say that in Greek. Let's continue, family. And the character in which they are written seems to be like that which is of the proper character of the Syrians, and that it sound, when pronounced, is like theirs also. So the Hebrew library, the laws of the Jews, according to this in Josephus, being Hebrew, the sound of it is like that of the Aramaic language. And that this sound appears to be peculiar to themselves. This sound, peculiar to themselves. Remembering that Aram is Syria. And remember, we just read here that this sound appears to be peculiar to themselves. Why does that become important? Because now when we know about the whole sound thing, let's look. What is a vowel? And we're going to close out soon. A vowel is a letter that represents a speech sound. Brothers and sisters, do we see where we're going with this? The point in mentioning this aspect is because you have brothers and sisters like myself learning Hebrew after you're already walking and talking and running, after you're already writing things down. So many of us, brothers and sisters, learn Hebrew by reading it first, building vocabulary based on that reading, and then speaking. Whereas any language that is known from birth, be it Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, or any other on earth, if you're born speaking it, you know it before you read it. Most of us in Israel today, in our community, we learned Hebrew already speaking something. So we learned it kind of backward compared to that of a baby learning a language. A baby hears it and then speaks it by age 3 in many cases. Understands it certainly by 3, 4 years old, sometimes 2 years old. You understand? But brothers and sisters, we're not talking like babies. The wise and understanding people that the scriptures talks about in Deuteronomy does not speak abagadaha, talking about you want to get rid of the quote unquote Yiddish or something. We went over Yiddish. We went over English spelt lettering in words that's not an English word. Same thing in the Tanakh. Same thing in the scriptures. Patipera is not a Hebrew word, but he's mentioned in Genesis. Do we have any questions concerning this? Brothers and sisters, and giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth. We hope, we pray that everybody is well and will be better. Was I supposed to just do it like this? And pull it up? Not sure. But anyway, brothers and sisters, we're going to close out. We're going to say a prayer. And we hope and pray, brothers and sisters, that everybody is well and will be better. All right. Let me look at the comments again, family. Jacqueline E. Bugs says, Shalom. Beit Zadok says, excellent point. And we have our friend here. Thank you for moderating on this. Visit the website, daynightpublications.com. Yes, please do so. And I want to say in closing out, brothers and sisters, anything that said that I offended anyone, if I did, was not intentional. This was in spirit in two aspects: to help set truth about the language in earth, and to respond, brothers and sisters, when people say the Hebrew that we speak, the Hebrew that we teach, the Hebrew that we name ourselves and our children in is Yiddish. Modern Hebrew is not Yiddish. We want to close out in part in saying this. Modern Hebrew is taking a modern word like refrigerator and putting that verb to freeze or to make cold, to freeze, by putting the mem as a prefix, making that verb a noun. That is what modern Hebrew is. It's not Yiddish. We went over that. So please stop saying that online, brothers and sisters, all those brothers and sisters speaking Yiddish. I remember, and there's no disrespect to Maccabees TV, I remember some years ago, I did a presentation with them, and I was reading the Hebrew that we see in Deuteronomy 28. And somebody put in the comments, Oh yeah, not to be self-centered. Yeah, that brother Yeshaya, he teaches well, but that's Yiddish. So no, it's not Yiddish, brothers and sisters. That right there is something that needs to be ceased from being said in Israel. All right. So let's close out in prayer. Modim Rabim Lefanech Haya Eloheinu. Many thanks unto you, O Lord our God. Melech HaOlam, King of the universe. Ha'el, Hayot Zer, Wa'el, Asher Lo Nozar, the God who is the former and not the one formed. Ha'el HaBoreh, Wagam Kain, Lo HaNibra, the God who is the creator and not the created. Ha'el HaRo'eh HaKol, the God who sees all. Wa'el Asher Lo Yera'eh, and the God who is not seen. Ha'el Hayodea HaKol, Gam Harazim, Wagam Hanodaim, the God who knows all, the secrets and that which is known. Shemana tefillotenu, hear our prayer. Wata'ane ota, and answer it. Anaknu shoalim odka Eloheinu, we ask you, our God, wa Elohe abotenu, and God of our forefathers. Quabel na et ha'pa'am hazeh, where you accept this time. Rachetz kulanu, cleanse us. Hosha kulanu, save us. Rapah kulanu, heal us. Haye imanu, be with us. No de lefaneka, we will give thanks unto thee. Kiata hayita imanu, for you are with us. Kashel lo kashabnu aleka, when we were not thinking concerning you. Meleka olam, king of the universe. Bore haaretz, creator of the earth. Wagam Cain. Ha'el. Hayotzer. Ha'el Hashalit, the one who forms, even the mighty God. Salak lanu ya Elohinu. Forgive us, O Lord our God. Brothers and sisters, and giving honor and praise unto the Most High. Thank you for joining in. We ask you to be peace and to be each other's peace. As we read, Abram in the scriptures was blessed and a blessing. It's not just about taking, it's about also giving. And with that, Most High bless. Shalom.